two suns, one invisible and perfect, frozen at the pleasant age of 9, static in a picture frame while the television underneath them spewed out all the shit of the 80s. Irish bombs, English riots, transatlantic stalemates, above which mess the child rose untouchable and unstained, elevated to the status of ever-smiling Buddha, imbued with serene Eastern contemplation, capable of anything, a natural leader, a natural Muslim, a natural chief, in short, nothing but an apparition. A ghostly daguerreotype formed from the quicksilver of the father's imagination, preserved by the salt solution of maternal tears. This son stood silent, distant, and was presumed well, like one of Her Majesty's colonial island outposts, stuck in an eternal state of original naivety, perpetual prepubescence. This son Samad could not see, and Samad had long learned to worship what he could not see. As for the son he could see, the one who was under his feet and in his hair, well, it is best not to get Samad started up on that subject. The subject of the trouble with Milat. But here goes. He is the second son, late like a bus, late like cheap postage, the slow coach, the catch-up kid, losing that first race down the birth canal, and now simply a follower by genetic predisposition, by the intricate design of Allah. The loser of 2 vital minutes that he would never make up, not in those all-seeing parabolic mirrors, not in those glassy globes of the Godhead, not in his father's eyes. Now, a more melancholy child than Milat, a more deep-thinking child might have spent the rest of his life hunting these 2 minutes and making himself miserable, chasing the elusive quarry, laying it finally at his father's feet. But what his father said about him did not concern Milat at all that much. He knew himself to be no follower, no chief, no wanker, no sellout, no scrub, no fuckwit, no matter what his father said. In the language of the street, Milat was a rude boy, a bad man, at the forefront, chasing image as often as shoes, sweet as, safe, wicked, leading kids up hills to play football, downhill to rifle fruit machines, out of schools, into video shops. In Rocky Video, Milat's favorite haunt, run by an unscrupulous coke dealer, you got porn when you were 15, R-rateds when you were 11, and snuff movies from under the counter for 5 quid. Here was where Milat really learned about fathers. Godfathers, blood brothers, Pacino De Niro's, men in black who looked good, who talked fast, who never waited a motherfucking table, who had 2 fully functioning gun-toting hands. He learned that you don't need to live under flood, under cyclone to get a little danger, to be a wise man. You go looking for it. Age 12, Milat went out looking for it. And though Willesden Green is no Bronx, no South Central, he found a little, he found enough. He was arsey and mouthy. He had his fierce good looks squashed tightly inside him like a jack-in-the-box set to spring age 13, at which point he graduated from leader of zit-faced boys to leader of women. The Pied Piper of Willesden Green, smitten girls trailing behind him, tongues out, breasts pert, falling into pools of heartbreak. And all because he was the biggest and the baddest, living his young life in capitals. He smoked first, he drank first, he even lost it first. Age 13 and a half. Okay, so he didn't feel much or touch much. It was moist and confusing. He lost it without even knowing where it went. But he still lost it, because there was no doubt. None. That he was the best of the rest. On any scale of juvenile delinquency, he was the shining light of the teenage community. The dawn. The business. The dog's genitalia. A street boy, leader of tribes. In fact, the only trouble with Milat was that he loved trouble, and he was good at it. Wipe that, he was great. Still, there was much discussion at home, at school, in the various kitchens of the widespread Iqbal Begum clan, about the trouble with Milat. Mutinous Milat, age 13, who farted in the mosque, chased blondes, and smelled of tobacco. Not just Milat, but all the children. Mujib, 14, criminal record for joyriding. Kandahar, 16, white girlfriend, wore mascara in the evenings. Depeche, 15, marijuana. Kershed, 18, marijuana and very baggy trousers. Khalida, 17, sex before marriage with Chinese boy. Bimal, 19, doing a diploma in drama. What was wrong with all the children? What had gone wrong with these first descendants of the great ocean crossing experiment? Didn't they have everything they could want? Was there not a substantial garden area, regular meals, clean clothes from Marks and Sparks, A-class, top-notch education? Hadn't the elders done their best? Hadn't they all come to this island for a reason? To be safe? Weren't they safe? Too safe, Samad explained, patiently consoling one or the other weeping. Angry Ma or Baba perplexed, and elderly Dadu or Dida. They are too safe in the country, Aha. They live in big plastic bubbles of our own creation, their lives all mapped out for them. Personally, you know I would spit on St. Paul, but the wisdom is correct. The wisdom is really Allah's. Put away childish things. How can our boys become men when they're never challenged like men? No doubt about it. On reflection, sending Magid back was the best thing. I would recommend it. At which point, the assembled weepers and moaners all look mournfully at the treasured picture of Magid and goat. They sit mesmerized like Hindus waiting for a stone cow to cry, until a visible aura seems to emanate from the photo. Goodness and bravery through adversity, through hell and high water. The true Muslim boy, the child they never had. Pathetic as it was, Alsana found it faintly amusing. The tables have turned. No one weeping for her. Everyone weeping for themselves and their children, for what the terrible 80s were doing to them both. These gatherings were like last-ditch political summits. They were like desperate meetings of government and church behind closed doors, while the mutinous mob roamed wild on the streets, smashed windows. A distance was establishing itself not simply between father-sons, old-young, born here, born there, but between those who stayed indoors and those who ran riot outside. Too safe, too easy, repeated Samad, as great Aunt Bibi wiped Magid lovingly with some Mr. Sheen. A month back home would sort each and every one of them out. But the fact was Milat didn't need to go back home. He stood schizophrenic, one foot in Bengal and one in Willesden. In his mind, he was as much there as he was here. He did not require a passport to live in two places at once. He needed no visa to live his brother's life and his own. He was a twin, after all. Alsana was the first to spot it. She confided to Clara, "By God, they're tied together like a cat's cradle, connected like a seesaw. Push one end, other goes up. Whatever Milat sees, Magid saw, and vice versa." And Alsana only knew the incidentals. Similar illnesses, simultaneous accidents, pets dying continents apart. She did not know that while Magid watched the 1985 cyclone shake things from high places, Milat was pushing his luck along the towering wall of the cemetery in Fortune Green. That on February 10th, 1988, as Magid worked his way through the violent crowds of Dhaka, ducking the random blows of those busy settling an election with knives and fists. Milat held his own against three sodded, furious, quick-footed Irishmen outside Biddy Mulligan's notorious Kilburn public house. But you are not convinced by coincidence? You want fact? You want brushes with the big man in black hood and scythe? Okay. On April 28, 1989, a tornado whisked the Chittagong kitchen up into the sky, taking everything with it except Magid, left miraculously curled up in a ball on the floor. Now segue to Milat, 5,000 miles away, lowering himself down upon legendary sixth former Natalia Cavendish, whose body is keeping a dark secret from her. The condoms are unopened in a box in his back pocket, but somehow he will not catch it, even though he's moving rhythmically now, up and in, deeper and sideways, dancing with death. That was an excerpt of White Teeth by Zadie Smith. So this is the first episode of the Derek Thinks podcast, where your host, me, Derek, will talk about miscellaneous and random things that I find interesting, which you may likely not find interesting. Maybe you'll find my voice to be annoying or drowning on, or unenthusiastic, but if you're listening now, thanks for listening. I greatly appreciate it. I got my ginger ale and tonic water to keep my mouth moist while I talk, so I don't sound like a frog during or by the end of this podcast. But yeah, I don't know. I, was, I intended to do this earlier in the morning. Maybe plan to walk to my favorite park and record. It's quite nice out. It's not raining. It's just cold. Middle of autumn. Um, but things came up, so I only had time to do it in the evening. I guess another option would be to do it late at night or early in the morning, because you know that actually that might be ideally the time to record, because it's quiet and I don't really get much sleep anyway. Which brings me to the first topic that I want to talk about on my very first podcast or episode of this podcast is just sleep. The importance of sleep. You know, how how much sleep or the quality of sleep you get during the day or during the nighttime rather, can affect you during the day. Obviously, everyone knows that sleep is important. You know, sleep deprivation, after all, is used as a torture technique. You know, by the military and other governments and countries. You know, where they keep you awake. They put you in an uncomfortable position to keep you awake. So we know that sleep deprivation is very effective and oftentimes just very agonizing. But I'm just curious, what puts you to sleep? What do you do? What are what are the measures you take before bed or during bed, when you hop into bed, that allows you to have a quality night of sleep? I know that since sleeplessness or insomnia affects several millions of Americans every year, it's a very common issue. And of course, there are medications for it, like Ambien. I've only taken Ambien twice in my life. Um, Frankly, it was not my prescription. I had bought some from a friend because I was desperate to see what it would do. You know, I was desperate for sleep. You know, and the first time I took Ambien, it was awful. I couldn't quite get to that sleep place, so I was just groggy for 10 to 12 hours. I was just awake and groggy. It just felt like everything was just slowing down, and it was a nightmare. But then I had taken it a second time, not long after the first time, and it did actually put me to sleep. Um, However, I had woken up and I had sent my friends a number of my friends text messages, which I was not aware of in my asleep state. And they were like something to the effect of like just incoherent babbling in the form of texts. Maybe much like this podcast is now, just incoherent babbling. I hope not, at least. I hope I'm being clear in my words. But yeah, so that was it. I decided, maybe Ambien, maybe the hard chemical route wasn't such a good idea. So of course there are other methods that you can uh, you can take, such as teas like chamomile tea, chamomile tea has long been like an anti-stress or more like a calming thing, and which can aid sleep. And I guess apparently in some people, uh, drinking a cup of chamomile tea before bed can result in some pretty vivid dreams. Um, while it certainly doesn't necessarily put me to sleep, um, it certainly does calm me down. I guess it does de-stress and help you wind down. Much like a beer would, just without or beer or glass of wine would, just without the potential hangover or dependence. I guess. I guess there's also something out there too. If you want something a little stronger than chamomile, there's something called valerian, which I haven't tried, but apparently it's similar to where it will calm you and help you go to sleep. Now, of course, that's just like for acute insomnia. A lot of these things and a lot of these methods, I would aid acute insomnia, but for people who suffer from chronic insomnia, much like I believe I do, you know, I on a good night, I would like you to get 4 hours, maybe even 5 hours uh, of sleep on a particular night, which is that's like incredible. As some on most nights I get as little as 2 hours, or maybe none at all. But I do sleep like a little bit. I do get an hour or two in at least. I'm not like those poor people with those genetic issues that have like chronic, like straight up insomnia where they don't sleep, which apparently is really, really bad for you. But of course, this maybe this podcast or what I'm talking about specifically right now is not it's not for those people. Those people obviously they need other forms of aid and intervention. You know, things like melatonin. A lot of people take melatonin. I've taken melatonin. The little uh, tablets that look like little like round multivitamins or whatever, or the caplets with the stuff in it. But that didn't really seem to work for me very much. I'd get like really tired for like an hour, but that it wouldn't put me out. The liquid melatonin that comes in a little bottle and with a little eyedropper that you can mix with any liquid, that turned out to be a little bit more effective. Um, but that only lasted about a week. After a week, for some reason, I guess my body grew tolerant to the extra melatonin that I was adding to it, and it just lost its effectiveness, which kind of sucks. But I mean, of course, even my case would be maybe a little more extreme case, although not the most extreme case. You know, uh, for those who suffer from occasional restlessness, just caused by um, acute anxiety or other just life issues like the weather or whatever makes you anxious or puts you down or whatever. Maybe something as simple as changing your bed sheets and your comforters, or getting a new mattress or flipping your current mattress could possibly aid you and help you get a better night's sleep, which is something I did. I changed my comforter, and I changed my bed sheets as well, which made the lying in bed experience much more pleasant, while it may have not helped the sleep aspect so much. But But yeah, something as simple as that, it could help you have a restful night of sleep. You know, I know some people I know some people who uh, eat a light snack before bed. You know, maybe a cup of cocoa or like a glass of warm milk. That that that's seemed to help people throughout, for decades. Or like a half a sandwich with like half a PB&J. I guess the sugar and the carbs, for whatever reason, they can make you feel a lot more comfortable and full, and help you go to bed. For me, that doesn't quite work for me. Usually I don't know, I have trouble snacking. Typically for me, snacks turn into full on meals. So so it doesn't it's not quite doesn't quite work for me. And usually I can't eat, or I can't sleep rather. Like I really can't sleep with like a full stomach. But that's more of like a an issue in self control. But I don't know. I mean, maybe maybe you could tell me your if you're listening, you could tell me your methods on what helps you go to sleep. Maybe something you suggest can help me have uh, one of those 5 hours of sleep nights more frequently. That'd be wonderful. I would like that very much. I'll uh, I'll pimp my info at the conclusion of this podcast, and you guys can contact me there. But let's see. I want to change gears. I just want to talk about the current season. I want to talk about autumn, or fall, as we say here in the United States. All right, autumn. They say autumn elsewhere. You could say autumn here too. But I don't know. It is a kind of a stressful season. Kids are going back to school. You know, working parents have, working parents. They always concerned with their kids going to school. And then um, you got the daylight savings, where those poor people who worked long hours on weekdays. They leave the house when it's dark, and around these parts it gets dark by 4:30 or 5, even now in the middle of fall. And when they leave work, it's dark, and when they get home, leave for work, it gets dark, and when they leave work to go home, it gets dark. It's dark again. They spend uh, the whole daylight hours just cooped up. So I can imagine that being kind of stressful, and kind of disappointing. But overall, the season is beautiful. And when earlier on, at the beginning of fall, that's when the leaves turn, and you get all the different colors, the reds and the oranges and the yellows, and I don't know, it just kind of looks like the trees are the trees are like just showing the metamorphosis, right? Metamorphosis, right? The trees are showing a different side of themselves. And I don't know. I've always found that the changing of the colors of the leaves just so beautiful. And then of course, once mid autumn rolls around, that's when the leaves fall off the trees, and then it becomes a pain in the butt to clean up the leaves everywhere in your yard, or in your driveway. And just especially where I live, there's you know just thousands of trees thousands of trees, yeah, within you know, 100 couple 100 foot radius, it feels like. So it, you know, once you clean up, once you gather up the clean up the leaves, the next week it's as if there are more leaves. Just it'll never end, you know, until winter rolls around, and just then all the trees, or most of the trees whose leaves fall down, are all completely barren. And that's of course, that's talking about winter is possibly for another episode when that rolls around. But yeah, I mean, of course, I mean, I might be biased towards um the autumn season, because my favorite holiday, Thanksgiving, is during that season. And of course, you have Halloween at the end of October, and then that, you know, of course, Halloween is mostly for the kids. You know, I'm of the age where a number of my friends have school children. While I don't have children myself, um, my a number of my friends have children, ranging from from babies to toddlers to just little kids. And of course, Halloween is I feel like Halloween's more for them than it is for anybody else. You know, Halloween, a commercialized Halloween that you get in the United States, is more for the kids and their parents who like to dress up as well, and maybe for you know, um, young adults and adolescents who like to party, I guess. But I don't know, I'm way too old for that, in my opinion. Although, oh, I did sort of dress up this Halloween, but you know, and I did go to a haunted house, I guess I'm still part of that demographic. although although that doesn't happen within the past 5 years. That doesn't happen every Halloween. Maybe every other Halloween, or whatever. I'll do something for that. But then, of course, once Halloween ends, it's as if Thanksgiving is overlooked. Then in the stores, you see the all the Christmas decorations that are up, the trees, the lights, the giant inflatable Santa Claus with the reindeer that you put on your roof. And it's like Thanksgiving gets left out, man. Thanksgiving is fantastic. I mean, granted, you know, it's where all the extended family all meets up, and it's not really Thanksgiving without family drama being brought to the table, and yelling matches, and maybe consumption of alcoholic beverages, which will further instigate these uh, screaming matches and other drama between family members. But that's, you know, I mean, that's mostly every household during Thanksgiving, right? You know, I mean, that's really the only time. Maybe Christmas as well, but Thanksgiving is really the only time that family, large like large extended groups of family, meet with each other, and sometimes, or oftentimes, you know, they rehash old drama. You know, maybe drama from decades prior. But I don't know. I mean, I guess since I'm not personally involved in any real drama, I guess it's just entertaining being a spectator. But then, of course, after Thanksgiving, you know, the leftovers is fantastic, and or the leftovers are fantastic. Um, that's why I believe Thanksgiving, it kind of extends food wise. Thanksgiving extends at least maybe a couple days to a week after the actual Thanksgiving day. But of course, within that period of time too, you also get Black Friday sales. You know, where where you know, stores have all these deals that get. Maybe if you want to purchase early Christmas presents, or you want to buy something for yourself. Black Friday is the way to go, apparently. Well, I guess not so much anymore. Within the past, maybe within the decade, or 5 years to a decade, online shopping is all the rage. You got Cyber Monday. That's a big deal. You got those websites where you can do online shopping, and they always have amazing deals. Well, I mean, they have amazing deals every day on certain items, but I would presume that Cyber Monday is where they have all the best deals, and they, with the free shipping and limited stockpiles and all that. So of course that's when people are at their on their devices or in front of their computers, just clicking away, buying whatever post Thanksgiving, which I guess with that and the approaching holidays afterward, you know, you get uh, package thievery, which means it's gone. Package thievery is guys. I mean, from what I've read online, it goes on in every suburban neighborhood all across the United States, at um, all year round. But I mean, I guess what I'm giving is a bit of a word of warning that with the increase of online shopping during these coming holidays, within the next couple months or so, within the next month, I should say, or so, package thievery will likely be at an all-time high. Although, although there are, even though there are things like the doorbell cameras, the little ring, or surveillance cameras that people install around their home, just the sheer brazenness and just a swiftness of these package thieves. They just walk up to your porch, take the package that the FedEx driver or the DHL or UPS driver dropped off on your property, no more than a couple minutes beforehand, like as if the thief is just waiting and scoping it out. And they're on your property for literally no more than 1 or 2 seconds, because they just walk up, grab the package off your front porch, and they dip out into their awaiting vehicle, which is awful. It really sucks. And and I feel like to them it's kind of like to these package thieves, it's kind of like a game. You don't know exactly, or they don't know exactly what you purchased, what's being delivered to you. But I guess the thrill of taking it, opening it, and the potential of there's something valuable being in there, or something in or not valuable, like uh, some wool socks or whatever. I don't know. Maybe they find a thrill in that, or maybe they're just terrible people. Or maybe they're drug addicts who need to steal and resell to get cash for their next fix. I don't know, but of course there are ways around it. There are ways to avoid being a victim of package thievery. You can most most I believe most or some, at least, websites can, they can you can give them special instructions. Oh, uh, drop it off in the drop it off on the back porch, or you go around the house, or put it in this particular spot, or whatever. Just a simple instruction for the delivery person to hide or stash away your package so that the potential for thievery is lower. Of course, there's also this other thing that I've read somewhere, that there's the other thing that you can, like, if you're not home, you can allow the delivery driver to actually enter your home and just drop off the package, which I don't know, it seems kind of sketchy to me, and I don't trust that. I mean, I'm sure most, if not all, delivery drivers are just hardworking and just trying to get as many deliveries done as they could before their end of the day. But I don't think I'd want one to deliver a package literally inside my home if I'm not there. That's kind of weird. But yeah, I mean, there are special I believe even like these websites you can give the delivery driver special instructions on where to drop it off. I mean, if you can do the same with you know pizza delivery drivers or whatever delivery drivers, other food delivery drivers, that you can tell them, oh, you can uh, deliver it through the window or deliver it through the back porch or whatever, or give them a code to the gate or whatever. Then you should be able to certainly do the same with package delivery drivers. I think. I don't know. It just sucks that just the lows that people are willing to go to. I mean, as I mentioned, it only takes a couple seconds for someone to walk up to your front porch, take the package that's been delivered to you, and just leave. And I believe it's happened. There are instances where it's already happened, maybe twice or three times within the past week in my own neighborhood. So, I mean, I guess that's why I'm bringing it up. It's just awful. I mean, I mean, what's the statistic? Like most like burglaries or car prowls where they actually break into your car or home. They're only in there for no more than like 20 or 30 seconds because they just look in the immediate area right next to the front door, see what's there that may be of value, and they just take it and run off. 20 seconds, 30 seconds, they're gone. And of course, package thieves. That it gives them um, the benefit of not breaking into or not destroying property, but simply just stealing your property just from your front porch. Just that's stupid. Just stupid people. But yeah, okay. We'll see. I want to move on. I guess. I guess. Hmm. Let's talk about music. I feel like talking about music for a little bit. Um. So I've been listening to new music or old new music, I guess, or music that I was once familiar with but want to revisit and all that. And very lately, maybe within the past year or so, I've been listening to the Beatles, who are the uh, one of the most iconic, if not the most iconic and popular bands in the world. Of course, growing up, everyone knows who the Beatles are. Who everyone knows who Paul McCartney is and John Lennon. When I was a child, my mother grew up listening to Wings, which was Paul McCartney's post Beatles band. And as for John McCartney, before I even really cared about the Beatles, I loved this song Imagine. I wasn't even born yet when he was murdered, but I do, as when I was a kid, and I knew about his song Imagine, and it turned out to be one of maybe my top 10 favorite songs ever. But when I listened to the Beatles, I discovered the genius that is the songwriting of George Harrison, and it turns out that his song Something ended up being on my just within the past year, I guess, ended up being on one of my top five favorite songs ever. So he's on the list. Another one of his songs, "While My Guitar Gently Weeps," easily in my list of top 25 songs, somewhere in there, right? So in my top 25, I got two George Harrison songs, one one John Lennon song, and and a song which was sung by their drummer Ringo Starr, "Yellow Submarine." That's in my top 25 as well because I loved that song when I was a kid. Without even really knowing who the Beatles were, I loved that Yellow Submarine song. But yeah, after listening to the Beatles within the past year or so, like really trying to get into the Beatles, it's crazy. I only discovered that they existed for a decade as the foursome, as the Fab Four. I guess they only existed for for a decade. Disbanded in 1970. Started in like what 61 or 62 or whatever, which is wild. They had the Beatlemania era with with their black suits and those bowl cuts, those iconic bowl cuts, and they're on the Ed Sullivan show with the the screaming girls. Apparently, the screaming the screaming crowd was so loud that the guys could hardly hear themselves play. Then of course, the Sergeant Pepper era where they all uh, took the role of different personas, and they wore these weird band uniforms and all that, and there's some great songs from that era as well. Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, I believe, is there was recorded during the Sergeant Pepper era. That's pretty famous. Um, with a little help from my friends, that's another song sung by Ringo. So, I mean, oh, the Beatles are great. The Beatles are great. I think they still hold up today. Occasionally I guess they have a YouTube channel. They recently reissued or reprinted the White Album, which was, I believe, which was their last album. But yeah, yeah, they're just a great band. Unfortunately, two of the four are no longer alive, and I believe Paul. Well, Paul is still. I mean, Paul's the most famous one, right? I mean, he's uh he's still he's still making music. He's still touring. I think Ringo's still touring as well. I don't know. Ringo's like what? I mean, Ringo's in his 70s, but he looks like he's in his 40s or 50s. Man, he looks really great. So I don't know. I really enjoyed the Beatles. I can't believe it took so long for me to get into them, but I'm glad I did. It's good. It's good music. They're very innovative in their styles and techniques, and they employ different ways of creating music. Uh, One of my maybe top 50 favorite songs, "Helter Skelter." That was like the first metal song. That's what people say. But apparently, I don't know. I mean, I don't agree or disagree, but it's a heck of a song. You got yeah. So okay, okay. I guess that's enough of me rambling. So in the beginning of the podcast, I read an excerpt of "White Teeth" by Zadie Smith. That's a novel. Um, and now I want to conclude this podcast by reading a poem. Um, but before I do that, I want to pimp my social media info. I'm on Twitter at derickthinks, spelled just like the name of this podcast. DERICKTHINKS, all one word. So if you have any questions, comments, feedback, if you can uh, tell me the way methods in which that help you go to sleep, or maybe your favorite Thanksgiving food, or or maybe your favorite Beatles song. You can hit me up on Twitter at derickthinks, DERICKTHINKS. And now I want to read an excerpt, or not an excerpt, rather. I want to read a poem. I mean to say, by a poet by the name of Major Jackson, and the poem is called Euphoria. Late winter, sky darkening after school, and groceries bought from Shop Mart. My mother leaves me parked on Diamond to guard her Benz, her keys half turned so I can listen to the quiet storm while she smokes a few white pebbles at the house crumbling across the street. I clamber to the steering wheel, undo my school tie just like Luther Vandross starts in on that one-word tune Creepin'. The dashboard's panel of neon glows. And a girl my age, maybe 16 or so, in a black miniskirt, her hair crimped with glitter, squats down to the pane glass and asks, "A date, baby, for 5?" Outside, streetlight washes the avenue. A cheap orange, garbage swirling, a vacant lot, a crew of boys slapboxing. On the corner, throwing back large swills of malt. Even the sidewalk teeming with addicts, their eyes spread thin as egg whites. She crams the crushed bill down her stockings, cradles and slides her palm, in rhythm to my hips thrashing, in rhythm to Luther's voice which flutters, around that word I now mistake for weep, as sirens blast the neighborhood, and my own incomprehensible joy to silence. Out of the house my mother steps, as though returned from the ride of her life, studies pavement cracks for half-empty vials, then looks back at bricked over windows, as though what else mattered? A family, a dinner, a car, nothing. But this happiness is so hard to come by.